meeting to order for the Bennington Select Board for Monday, January 14th. First of all, I'd like to send condolences to Joe Krozik's family. His father passed away the other day, and also to Jim Carroll, he lost his mother yesterday. So condolences to those families, please. Greg, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda tonight are the minutes from December 17th, which was a meeting that we had in the town office before the holidays. I entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor? That is unanimous, thank you. Next minutes are from Saturday, January 5th. It was our first budget session. Anyone have any corrections or deletions on that? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Thank you. One second, by Joe. All those in favor of those minutes, please. And that's unanimous also.
Seconded by Jimmy.
I'm a Jimmy, I'm sorry. Next item on the agenda are the warrants. Jason, you have any questions on the warrants tonight?
Oh.
Okay, Greg?
I have one, Stuart, on page 2, halfway down, the ASCAP fees for special event licenses.
Yes.
What does that cover? Is that an annual fee we pay, or is that?
It is an annual fee we pay. It's because of the various events that we hold where music that is licensed or copyrighted may be played at those events. We had a long running battle with ASCAP before we decided to just do it.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was a kind of an overall coverage for the year.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Anything else? That's it. Chris?
I don't know, man.
Justin?
No.
Just one.
Just one? Okay.
On page 3 near the bottom, CO white, 2,400 for replacing windows.
Yes, that was you'll note that the 810 account is building improvements. We've replaced a lot of the windows. I believe it was in the control building, which includes the office and the lab at the wastewater treatment facility.
Okay, that's question one. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item, citizens. Are there any citizens in the audience tonight who would like to bring something before the board that is not on our agenda? Sir, can you come up? If you just kind of stand by that microphone. And identify yourself, please, for our secretary.
Hi, my name is Dan Turcott. I'm with Phoenix Wing House of Design and Productions here in Bennington. I'm bringing to the table a proposal for a summer music series in which my company, Phoenix Wing Productions, would be working hand in hand with the BBC in providing live entertainment for the downtown area. We've been going back through this, and I've noticed that the music series over the last couple of years have been kind of scattered all over the place, and my new company kind of works with a lot of artists and a lot of new talent, local and out of the area. And I thought that it would be advantageous for us to be able to help the town make sure that it's managed and taken care of through our company.
Okay.
So what I've brought, and I believe all of you have a copy of what that me and my partner have kind of put together, working with the BBC and Greg Van Houten here. It's got a little bit about what our purposes are with it, a little bit about me and my company, and what the expectations are for the scheduled performers and getting a full summer series. Last year, I believe that the summer series only ran through a month. We're proposing I think like a 16-week program, which would run it from June into the middle of September when students go back to school. And right now we already have music interests to fill pretty much every one of these spots. The program would be through, a lot of it would be financed through a sponsorship program where we have other local businesses and companies that would propose some money towards advertising for banners and would also pay for the entertainers and some of the other things that we have to, costs that would incur with the summer program. We also would take care of sponsorships with chairs and, help provide entertainment or refreshments for the events.
Okay. And do you have someplace you have in mind to do this?
We were thinking about just keeping it on the lawn of where it was last year, on the front lawn of the courthouse, or not the courthouse, but the town offices. And because I have a local downtown business that also has a music venue, if there's a rain situation, we can just move it to an inside area so that we could keep the music series continued. The other thing that we've taken into consideration is if there's cancellations of any sort, we will have a backup performer that would be willing to step into the spot and fill, so there wouldn't be any lags or spaces in what we're doing musically. We would also take care of it as Phoenix, the advertising and help promote the events through web pages and Facebook sites and just having people hand out and talk and network with people to get them more involved with the community and the arts, what we have going on downtown.
And liability would be yours?
For the most part, anything that happens through us will be responsible for, except for anything that happens. If somebody gets hurt, I would assume that the town offices, because it's on the property, would take care of it. But we can also discuss that. This is on the very early stages of this project, and working with the BBC, I'm sure we can come to an understanding of what we can do that. Anything that happens under my roof in Phoenix will be covered under my insurance. So if there's a problem with somebody getting hurt or other logistics, my company would take care of the insurance issues on that.
And how about security? Would that be the town's responsibility or yours?
I will provide security. I will man it and make sure that there aren't any issues. Would be somebody there at all times from my company to make sure that if somebody gets hurt, that they can call help and make sure they do that. I'm not foreseeing a fighting, violent situation happening down there. It is right across the street from the police department, but I do know that people get it out, but we're not serving alcohol. And the other part of that is that I'm not going to be booking bands there that are going to be promoting violence. I'm thinking more acoustic, no more than, no large, plugged in, heavy metal, that type of deal. And all the music that we will be proposing to the board would all be juried. There'll be bios on all the musicians. There'll be samples of what they're going to be playing. We're taking the guesswork out of it, is what we're doing. It's been a lot of work for Mr. Shanahan over the last year to make sure that this happened, and prior to that it was a lot of work as well. And we're just trying to help. I have a downtown business now, and I'm watching a lot of things happen downtown, and I want to be a part of it and be able to help it grow forward instead of kind of get into the circling filing cabinet and not happen.
Okay, these are Friday nights?
Friday nights.
Any board members have any questions?
I could point, I'd just like to jump in.
Okay.
Dan had approached me about this, or we had a conversation about it. He approached me, and a couple days later I got the first draft of this proposal. And one of the things that, I noticed is right off is he had, voluntarily put bios of bands in here. What his goals and what his expectations and responsibilities were, which we, and approached John Shanahan at the same time. So if you look at the first interior page under expectations, it outlines what we envision the roles of the Phoenix Wing, Better Bennington Corporation, and Town of Bennington to be. The town having insurance as a public property and access to the porch is really the only role that we need to play in that, similar to last year. The Better Bennington Corporation has offered to help them promote it and participate in opening a bank account specifically for that, so fundraising money can be under their tent. And Dan and Kathleen have pretty much offered to manage the entire booking, fundraising, organization, oversight of the operation. So, I mean, this is exactly what John has been saying has been absent. You know, it's just somebody to do it. He just hasn't had the people on the ground to do this. And this is the time of year you need to really do it because we're going to start an aggressive fundraising and booking bands for the summer. This is the time of year we traditionally did it at the BBC. So I encourage Dan to, you know, pursue this, and we, you know, worked out some details with him, and he's sat down with John and worked out budgets and things like that. So I was really happy to have him pop up with this because I think it's something that we can make happen.
So this is going to be free to the public, but you are doing sponsorships with
Absolutely.
seating and advertising.
Right. In order to get it out with websites and stuff, I'm in a position to be able to then work closely with a lot of the downtown vendors, because I am a downtown business, but also with businesses throughout Bennington County and even, you know, a little bit further out because of the House of Design part of it, my sign and vehicle graphic company. And I've already had people that I've talked to briefly about this idea, and they were willing to step up and say, hey, we'll do a week, you know, you can put our name on the literature, that, you know, our logo's on the literature, and will help support this local music.
Stu?
Well, I think the only concern that I would have, because last year's series was sporadic and really not funded per se, I think the issue of insurance was not an issue. Yes, the town has insurance. Yes, if somebody sits on one of our benches and it collapses, we have a liability insurance there. I guess my concern would be, Dan, that whatever Phoenix Wing Productions and their bands do, we need some sort of a contract with you so that there is some sort of agreement that should you damage the property.
Well, I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, we can work with that. I think if we can come up with some sort of an agreement between the two parties as to what their responsibilities
Yeah,
are.
I have no problem having a financial responsibility for anybody that we bring in as entertainers, or to work the events through my insurance would cover most of that anyway.
Okay.
Can you tell me what the line item under your proposed annual budget management, $800, what does that take?
Pardon?
The $800 that you have listed here under expenses?
It would be organizational costs. It would also be the cost for me to man the event and also maintain the websites, pay for the server fees, that type of thing. It's very minimal, the cost.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
convenience.
I mean, it's not like I'm going to be going in and doing just an hour event. I mean, in order to prep for an hour event, you've got 15 hours in the background being able to do that. So most of it, that would just cover the out-of-pocket costs for, you know, being able to maintain servers and have somebody come in and work it other than myself. I plan on donating a lot of time to this project if it happens.
And that's pretty much why I asked, because I assumed that that's what that $800 would be spent.
Right.
When, my question or concern is that enough?
I'm
I'm assuming that you feel like it is, but
I assume it is at this point. This is a project that I have never undertaken, I'll be honest with you. I know that I can handle, but I've never taken it on. But I've kind of broken it down a little bit, what would be involved and what I would do. And my company would be handling all of the artwork setup and all of that fee would be a donation situation, which is huge.
yeah.
That's
So-
actually a line item that John and I asked him to put in there to make it sustainable. He was actually offering to do it.
I was offering to do it all.
And John and I were discussing that with him and said, why don't you put a little
Because
something?
that's a huge piece.
It is.
So let's just say that you're able to raise more than $9,600, and you know, with the assumption that, you know, more businesses will pick up, more donors will want to be involved, and that goes up to $10,000. what do you propose to do with any?
Well, I think that the money should go back into a revolving fund for the next year. Definitely. I would rather see that the entertainers make the money, because I don't believe anybody should perform for free. And I don't believe I should perform for free either, but I really believe in my town, and I really believe that this is something that needs to be done.
Good enough. I've always supported an initiative like this, and the fact that you've got a nice proposal, and I've seen some of the shows that you have, you know,
They're
performing
top rate, you know.
and your space is fantastic for downtown, so you've got my full support.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody?
I would just say I thank you for bringing it forward. I think this is going to be something that's very good for Bennington. It's been missing downtown. And it'll be good. It'll be good for Friday nights in the summer. So all the time and effort you're going to put into this, I'm sure it's going to be significant. So
Well, that's the other part of it is too, is that I believe that if you put out, you get back. And, you know, being something that's involved with the community. This community has supported me in my other company for many, many years, my old company. And, you know, when I started this company, the community stepped up to make sure that I was going to be working out. I'm all about paying it forward.
Sure. We 100% wish you luck. We can all get in this together. And I think it's something I can certainly get behind as a select board member. So thank you.
Congratulate you for your effort. We hope it's a big success.
Thank
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work.
Do we need a motion or consensus good on that, Stuart?
I'd love to have a motion or consensus, yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant permission for Dan to run the series on the front porch as described.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just with the caveat that we can see this,
We'll get the agreement.
the agreement, you know.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to bring something before the board that's not on our agenda?
Susan Cole, the director of the Senior Center.
Hey Susan, how are you?
Pretty good. I got on here, I tried to do cost effective on our bus. I added up the repairs still. And he's right, it's not, by the time you add the repairs up and what it costs to run our bus, is about the same as Green Mountain Lines. The only difference is our driver, when he drives our bus, also gets them in the theater, gets their ticket, make sure they're seated and all that stuff. What would be to change it if they just keep the bus around town and staff going with them on Green Mountain Lines to the theater, like McHayden or Proctor's or something like we do, because they do go in and get their tickets, even if they go to the mall. If somebody doesn't come out and meet the bus, then Bob or me, whoever drives, goes in to make sure the senior gets on the bus. And that's my difference, being changed with the Green Mountain Lines.
Okay.
You folks,
Yeah,
unfortunately, you folks are not, Susan and I have been working.
Working on that,
Yeah,
trying to straighten this out, so.
Yes, we've been working to try to understand what the cost of operating that bus
And this is
versus
sort of,
what the cost might be to use
like
other
repairs, we've already done this
transit
right now.
authorities, such as the public bus system, Green Mountain, Network. She's mentioned Green Mountain Lines.
I mean Green Mountain Express,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I did add it up, we did like $1,500 already this year. But you already got the paperwork.
Yes, I do. And I sent Susan a memorandum the end of last week, asking her to take a look at it and react to it, because it appears that the cost to contract out some of the services to Green Mountain Community Network are approximately the same as it's costing us. Now, we do allow seniors and others who participate in our trips to ride at a relatively reduced rate. And I think that, I'm not here to present this to you tonight,
Yeah.
but I think Susan and I need to come to an understanding about what's appropriate for the taxpayers to help fund and what seniors or participants in the various trips that we offer should pay. And so I'm or that I have. So that's where we're at.
And I left a message real late on your phone, you probably didn't get it that day.
I was intending to wait.
Would you mind if we do this as an agenda item at a future
That would be
meeting?
my intent.
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah,
have
I'm
no
sorry.
information
Yeah,
except for
because some of the seniors just
this.
wanted to come talk about it because they're the ones that pay for the bus and stuff like that.
Jason?
One point, if it's delayed too long, I assume this has a budget ramification, and we are wrapping.
More of a revenue ramification. It may, in fact, if we decide that the fees for the trips need to come up, then the trips would be paying for themselves. So there would be additional revenue that might come to the town rather than us subsidizing to some degree the trip cost for people who are traveling either on our bus or privately. So it's not budgetary in that regard.
Okay, well, if we're Green Mountain Express or Sharon,
It's cabs.
it's cabs.
Well, it's the
Black buses.
black
Yeah,
buses. It's
same.
part of Green Mountain.
If the seniors were, if that was put in place for the seniors, how would that work? Would they be paying a subsidized rate, and the town would be picking up the difference?
No, I think we had the full rate, didn't we, the $13 or something, whatever the cost would be for them to
Yeah.
ride that bus.
Well, I mean, that's part of the decision-making process. We are currently subsidizing the use of the senior bus. So when the senior bus goes to Mountain,
To be fair, I really don't know much about this. We subsidize quite a bit. I mean, people can join the rec center for far less than it would cost to join a private gym with the same amenities.
that's correct.
I mean, that's,
I
just so everybody understands, the word subsidy here is,
Yes.
it's not isolated to the senior center.
I agree. I mean, there is a role for town government to play when it
Yeah.
creates a department and offers services. So I'm not here tonight to be able to present to you what I think that role ought to be. And I mean, you ought to have the facts, you ought to see, and you can direct me and Susan as to how you would like to proceed. And I'm just not there.
Yeah,
Is the
Yeah.
bus near its end of life?
we have about 65,000 miles on it,
It's
66,000.
about 10 years old.
Yeah, it's 10 years
It's
old.
getting, although we
That
just
was-
recently repaired it.
We just repaired
We
the
had
whole
something that
thing,
recent
so I
packed
mean,
about that, and that was the gist I got, that when it was
Yeah,
approaching its,
it is approaching.
You need a decision to
Its end of its
replace.
useful life, and
yeah.
there's going to be a decision that has to be made. Part of what I'm looking at is trying to preserve that bus and allow it to be used specifically locally and to some of the shorter length trips that we now provide, and thereby extend its life, so we're not faced with a major purchase here. And also helping to highlight the public transportation system that we have in this community that I think needs to be used
It's
more.
underutilized.
Mhm.
Right, so let's let Stu and Susan work on this a little bit and bring it back before the board at a future
Okay, it's
meeting.
just that the seniors are getting a little nervous, and me and Stu's been working on it.
Well, they're not gonna have to walk to their next event. Let's put it that way. We'll make sure that they
Because
get
I've
there
got
the way
runs
they're
around the
supposed to.
casino because Bob is sick, so.
We won't let them be
So,
without
okay.
transportation.
Okay, and that's what they were more worried about, so. I don't know if anyone wants to talk or
It
not.
will continue until a decision is made.
Okay.
Okay? Is there anyone else who would like to bring something before the board that's not on our agenda this evening? Sir, did you have a? No, you. Could you just state your name, please, for our board secretary?
You have to talk a little louder, I'm on my step.
If you would just state your name for the board secretary, please?
Okay, Richard Fouché.
Okay, thank you.
4 years ago, Dale Amdon brought sand back from Somerset Lake to use in horseshoe pits on the side of the house that I live in. Since then, we've had flea infestation after flea infestation. The lake where he brought the sand from is loaded with deer, ticks, horseflies, gnats, and fleas. We never had a problem before this with any kind of bugs, even though the man upstairs has 9 cats.
Could I just ask where you live, sir?
I'm sorry,
Could I just ask where you live?
708 Gage Street.
Thank you.
So, with the sand and the horseshoe pits, of course, Tom Allen's 9 cats go right for the pits because it's like kitty litter. They do their business in the pits, take a few fleas back into the house with them. The first year I thought it was me. I thought I had bed bugs. I found them 7 times. I threw out my beds. I threw out my couches. I threw out my blankets. I thought it was me. I kept trying and trying to get rid of them. I kept bombing. I bombed 8 times. I had no idea about fleas or the guy upstairs with the 9 cats that they would bother me. Somebody said something to me, and they said, "Richie, you don't have bed bugs. You got fleas." I never even heard of them. You know, so I didn't even think of that it was him upstairs. So I told my land. Okay. Then someone told me about fleas. I let Glenn Comar know, and the exterminator came and sprayed my whole house. Only my house. Only me. There's 4 different apartments, but he only sprayed my apartment. Still, they came right back. Finally, Tom Allen admitted, and the inspectors also declared the house uninhabitable. You, Kevin Goodhue, and Larry McLeod also told me, or wrote a letter to Glenn, about the non-existent smoke alarms in my bedroom and the ones not in Tom Allen's bedroom. Could you please show me a copy of this letter? These are serious enough matters that surely you sent him a citation or something pertaining to these matters. I've seen nothing. Well, maybe not, since you haven't rectified the problems in any way whatsoever. After your first visit 3 years ago, you came back last week. Every time I raise the issue, either with you, Kevin, or Glenn, you take your time about it. 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, the exterminator comes, does the same thing over again, and the same thing happens again. Excuse me for a second. You have never, and I repeat never, taken care of these matters in your town inspector position since no alarms, and Richard has 74 flea bites. 4 years later, of course, Tom Allen, the tenant, that you say that I can't have him complain, they said that I could, I'm sorry, Kevin Goodhue wrote me a letter and told me that I'm not allowed to complain anymore because I'm the only tenant complaining.
So you have a letter?
So I said to Kevin, I said, why would the guy, Tom Allen, with the 9 cats and the fleas, why would he complain? Of course he's not going to complain. And Dale Amadon, who works for Glenn Colmar, who's the owner of the building, is surely not going to complain. So between the 3 of us, it's only me complaining. So it's my fault. He's telling me that I'm the only one with the flea problem. They're not allergic to them, so they don't get bit.
Question for you. Are you saying to us that you were given you received a letter from Kevin Goodhue saying that you were no longer entitled to make a complaint?
Yeah. He says it's my fault. Give me a second. And also, Glenn Comar's maintenance man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 harassing. Phone calls, he's turned off my heat, he's turned off my cable, he's harassed me, and I can do nothing about it. I called the police, I've done everything in my power to try to do this civilly.
Okay, 1 second.
Just
Jason.
to make a point here, what Mr. Fouché is saying is very serious, but we're also getting to a point where we're allowing him to make public accusations about both town employees and local business people, neither of whom are here tonight. In all due fairness, that's not fair either. If you're getting the short end of the stick, that's not fair. If there's a complaint that can be made, I don't know that this is the proper forum for attacks on people who aren't here.
No, it's certainly something that we need to look into with town staff.
And
And it's not, and I'm not saying that Mr. Fouché's.
I'm permanently disabled.
I understand that.
I'm 55 years old. It drives me crazy not to be able to work. I can't even sit in my living room and just sit there and read a book.
Well, we
What
can,
I'm getting at is, you know, Mr. Foucher's got his complaint, you've got people here who are, you know, one's a local business person, the other, we've got a couple town employees. I don't think, I don't know that, you know, I guess I'm asking you as the chair of the meeting tonight to direct Stu, or the board to direct Stu, to look into this and have follow-up with Mr. Foucher, who's brought a complaint to the board, but I don't think,
this is the
I don't
right
think
place.
going further
Right.
where this conversation going is an appropriate thing for, to be fair to Mr. Foucher or to the other people involved.
I agree. Stuart, could you possibly set up a meeting with Kevin and Mr. Komar and Mr.
Okay. Before you, so you're cutting me off, Tom.
Well, I'm just saying, to
I
be
just
fair
want
to
to
the,
tell you one other thing, okay? Six weeks ago, they discovered a raw sewage leak in my basement, okay? That's 6 weeks ago, okay? It's still there. They spread lime dust over it, okay? The only way to keep my half of the house warm, because they have no insulation on any of the pipes or under the floors, they use a fan and they use a kerosene heater in the other basement, and the 55-degree air blows into my side of the house. Okay, that's the only way they keep my side of the house warm. So they went down there and they poured 4 bags of this lime all over the sewage. So this fan is on all the time, blowing this lime dust all around. It's been there for 6 weeks. This is a letter from my doctor.
Okay. All right, Stuart, can we? Right. I'm going to give these back to you because there's a,
That's from my doctor.
for your records. All right. Here you go. We'll just, those are your copies.
I'll look into it, Sharon. I will try to pull together a meeting of the parties and get to the bottom of what we all think is happening. I'll report back to you.
Does Mr. Goodhue has your contact
You have to
information?
talk loud, I can't hear you.
Mr. Goodhue has your contact information, your phone number?
Yes.
Okay. Stuart is going to look into it tomorrow, and he will be in contact with you, and we'll see if we can get this resolved for you.
You can see the lime dust coming through the carpet.
Okay. We will, we'll take care of it for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget your glasses.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to bring something before the board that's not on our agenda this evening? Next item on the agenda are liquor and tobacco license applications.
Yes, I just have the first and second degree and tobacco licenses listed. You saw in your packet. That just needs to be signed.
Okay. Pass that down for signature, and we'll go on to the management report.
And since you're signing things, this was not in your packet. It came in late. It's a certificate of highway mileage. Every year about this time, the state sends us a certificate of highway mileage that we and the state maintain in Bennington. It requires your signatures, and the town clerk will certify your signatures. It is then filed with transportation, and we receive reimbursement from the state for the mileage that we maintain. So I'll just pass that down. There are no changes this year, except for the Route 279. And continuing on, I've just got a couple of, well, there are actually 3 ordinances that I talk about here, and I'm just looking for direction from the board to see whether or not you'd like me to consider them. In the first instance, we'll be coming back to you in the future with the fire department reimbursement ordinance. We originally put that before you, and there were a number of clarification issues that you had that So I need to get together with the chief of the fire department and our public safety commissioner and get those questions answered so we can present that to you. Most of it had to do with the definition of incident, who pays and who gets billed. The second, and I'm working backwards here, is an ordinance prohibiting the sale, prohibiting kennels through the animal control ordinance, except as those that would be defined and meet certain strict requirements for lot size, noise, fencing. As I say in my report here, we've experienced some problems with people who are raising dogs, apparently for sale, in relatively confined spaces. Issues of noise, odor, and cleanliness have kept the health office and the police department involved for extended periods of time without resolution. So I would like to work with Dan Lumps, the planning administrator, and our council to come up with a much cleaner definition that could be enforced through the select board ordinance, which would give us a little more authority in dealing with those kinds of situations.
Because we have an ordinance now as to how many dogs you can keep.
No.
I thought we did, as to how many dogs you can keep on premises. And
No. Kennels are defined under state law, and the definition is fairly broad. And most of us think about a kennel, we might think about Great Fields Kennels, or we might think about Second Chance Animal Shelter, those kinds of things. What we're running into are people who are actually raising dogs on their premises in very small plots of land, and we don't have a limit on the number of dogs you have as long as they're licensed. So we'd like to try to address that through an ordinance so we can clarify for people when they start to complain that there is something that we can do or not. So I'll be back to you with that unless you choose not to hear it. And the last is probably the most controversial. We have found, and you have experienced this and learned of our findings, that between the hours of midnight and 2 a.m., most of our drunken, disorderly, and disturbances occur in drinking establishments. It's also the time at which most of our downtown vandalism occurs. And I'm asking the board if you would like to consider an ordinance which limits the sale and consumption of alcohol in Class 1 licensed businesses after midnight on any given day. I understand that there might have to be some exceptions. New Year's Eve, for instance, there might be others that I haven't even thought of. But it's gotten to a point now where our police are involved routinely on weekends at those places that stay open after midnight and tend to serve or perhaps overserve their customers. I don't know. It may be the customers are intoxicated when they arrive, but that's where our problems occur. We're all aware of some of the issues that we've had, and I'd like to know whether you'd want to take a look at that.
I've got a question for you, Stu. Now, when you stop the sale of alcohol at midnight, would these establishments be allowed to remain open until 2, or would they close at midnight?
They are, the state law allows them to stay open until 2.
Okay.
I think we should deal with the problem and not penalize everybody else for one person or one establishment's errors.
Well, here's another question, just to follow up with Sharon. With respect to the 2 areas, or 2 establishments that have been notorious for trouble, is the vandalism confined to close proximity of these places, or is it general?
Most of the vandalism that we find to our municipal plantings in the downtown occur within the area of the 2 establishments that are problematic. And it always happens late at night or early morning. responsible? I don't know. But I think we have to recognize that there's a problem here, that people who tend to be out that late consuming alcohol, at least in today's culture, they tend to cause problems.
I think it's a big discussion we need to have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd be open to discussion. I think there's a lot of bases to touch. I agree with you that, you know, if there are specific problems or violations, making blanket laws to avoid dealing with the specific issues would be remiss. On the other hand, a lot of these types of legislations have backlashes, such as, okay, you can't, you know, you drink in Bennington until midnight, and then you hop in your car and you drive somewhere else. As we've seen with age differences, closing times in the past. I mean, I grew up about as far as we are now from the New York state line, and we had 1 o'clock closings, and they had 4 o'clock closings. And, you know,
Same thing happened up here, correct?
yeah, I know, so it's the exact same thing, so.
Same order.
Yeah, and, you know, so that's my memory, you know, here as well as there. So, before I jumped into something like that, I would want to explore, you know, what the options are. But, you know, as I've said before, if patrons want to, you know, frequent a place and they don't behave properly, they're going to lose the right to, you know.
Well, I think that one of the things that we're running into is the establishments are just not following the rules. You know, and I hate to say that, you know, we need to seriously look at the fact that we stop serving at midnight, because Sharon's right, it does sort of punish other establishments, but and the people that go out and enjoy that thing, sort of thing. But at the same time, our establishments that are open that late are also the establishments that are violating the rules that are currently in place.
Some more than others.
Yeah. So, but I think that, you know, this is proactive on our part, and I think that we should consider our options.
Jason, you have your hand up?
The only comment I was going to make is you know, Stu mentioned some exemptions. You know, the only initial comment that comes to mind is I would exempt out the private clubs, because typically those aren't the problems. Those are member only, or there are some semi-private type clubs as well. That certainly, I can't find the words to describe it, but I know there's a difference. You know, there is a difference with the private club, and that should be recognized in any discussion going forward.
I'd like to just throw an idea out with respect to this ordinance, or maybe as a new part of the existing ordinance. Now, as the town's liquor board, we are entitled and responsible for people's liquor licenses in Wheaton Point. Now, if we were to go after one or both of the problem places and yank their license, you know, we painted with the idea that we're hurting the downtown. I've got another idea. How about, with respect to the two troublesome bars, that they be required to have a paid uniformed police officer that they pay for at their door for a period of time until things get better.
Well, I think you're now going to what Sharon is talking about. That is trying to deal with the specific licensee, either at license renewal time or attempting to convince the state of Vermont to pull the license for a time and allow them to reopen with certain conditions. So it's a little bit different, perhaps more specific to the establishment than the general rule that I'm talking about. And you know, if there's enough interest on the board to at least talk about this, I would suggest we put it on the agenda. Gives everybody a chance to think about it. And I mean, Jason is correct. I knew there were other areas that exemptions might be appropriate, and I didn't come up with the private clubs, but it's valid.
I mean, maybe we can come up with like a 3-strike rule.
Well, the state of Vermont is the license. Yes, you are the local.
I mean, we try
well, now you've made yourself a liquor control board, which in a sense we are,
We are.
but in a sense, well, we're also a lot of things, but you, what wherewithal do we bring to the table to enforce that on a regular basis? I mean, I think whatever this board going forward is going to use as criteria, it ought to create something that's within its bounds that it can enforce. You know, to me, like when Jimmy says, we ought to put somebody in there, well, that sounds to me like we're conditioning a license, which, all right, issuing agencies can typically condition a license, but can we condition it like that? I really don't know the answer to that. Does that run skew of state liquor control rules and regulations? I suspect it probably does, and it puts us in a position of foisting an expense on some establishments that we don't foist upon others, which, you know, is inherently a slippery slope. 3 strikes and you're out. Okay, define the strikes. That's a very difficult thing to do. And, you know, I think rather than throw ideas out today, I think the board does have consensus that it's a discussion we ought to have. You know, my only comment today is, as I've already made, I'd make an exception almost immediately for private clubs because they are part of the problem and they are inherently different than any bar. But other than that, I would say it probably is something to have some public hearings on. There's police input, there's bar owner input, there's select board input, and public input. You know, rather than try to define strikes or start to condition licenses, I hold confident in that.
At this point, I don't really see the need to go ahead with a blanket ordinance. You know, I think looking at issues as they present themselves on a case-by-case basis is a much better way to go about it. We have businesses here that are struggling to stay open as it is, so much that may quite easily depend on that 1 or 2 hours in the evening to try and make it through a week. I'm afraid we could regulate some places right out of business. Is that really what we want to do here?
Well, I think we can still just explore the possibility and see. I mean, we may decide after we talk about it and, you know, listen to others that that's not what we want to do, but I think we should have a discussion.
Well, we certainly don't want to put businesses out of,
No, we don't want to do that.
it would be foolish to even suggest that. We have businesses that are not following the rules.
No, but it's a very real
And when we have businesses or anyone that don't follow the rules or choose not to, you know, they're burying themselves. So, you know, I think that, you know, enough said on my part.
I think that's where you need to look at it on a case-by-case basis and not make a blanket suggestion. We're going to punish a few for the act, you know, punish everyone for the actions of a few. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, I think we probably have consensus to at least look at it.
Okay,
And then go from there.
very good. Well, that's all I've got.
Sir, can you define a Class 1 license for me?
It's the ability to sell alcohol and food in an establishment.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
I'd like to go back to the animal control ordinance on that. I think that's a good idea, Stu. And I'm assuming through the town clerk's office and the dog licensure data that the assistant town clerk keep, we would be able to see a pattern of, and I'm thinking of a couple spots that have come to this board's attention over the last 4 to 6 weeks of licenses turning over, or these 5 dogs were here this year, 7 new dogs next year. We have the data to extract that.
I think we do, yes.
Okay. And we also, I think, you know, this also starts to smell like a home occupation issue that we've got the zoning authority on to attack this through.
Yeah,
We define home occupations, and even though kennel is a state law defined term, I don't know the answer to this, but do we have the ability to further define it ourselves for purposes of home occupations, where they're allowed, where they're not allowed, which are allowed and which are not allowed? Is that a way to go?
Yes, we could approach it from the zoning perspective. We currently allow kennels in, I think, rural conservation and perhaps in rural districts. And the question then comes down to, is the individual truly operating a kennel or not? And then that falls back to the state definition of what a kennel is. And so you're right, there are two ways to approach it. One is a select board ordinance, the other would be the land use regulations.
Because what comes to mind there is somebody on 12 acres in a rural zone or on 25 acres in a rural zone. Well, perhaps that's a permissible home occupation there, but on a quarter-acre lot in a dense neighborhood, it's clearly not and shouldn't be allowed.
I agree.
I think for both avenues of that.
I think the town clerk has, I mean, you don't have to register a puppy until they're like 6 months old, so you could have 20 puppies running around.
I don't know what the license.
Nobody would
It's
know.
6 months. Once a dog, I think it's 6 months of age or older, has to have its shots and be licensed.
It needs to be licensed, so, okay. Anything else? All right. Any other business? Jason? Greg?
Yes, I do have one item that I'd like to put on the next agenda, if you would. This is in regards to an initiative that started in the BBC Arts Committee, and it's kind of grown into an extension of the VCRD meetings we had last spring, Vermont Council on Rural Development. One of the original 9 meetings was on the arts and culture in Bennington. It did not make the top 4. Paul had indicated if there was interest, we should certainly encourage people to go forward with it. There was a discussion about supporting all of the arts downtown, more than just the visual arts, as has been kind of the trend in the past with Old Castle and things like Phoenix Wing, Nest, and things going on downtown. There's some new energy. It expanded to a town-wide vision. We had invited some other people in, and the question came up of, can we forge a cultural town plan? And that could move us forward as a community. So on February 10th, there's going to be a summit that's going to be held at Mount Anthony Country Club, and the title is the Bennington Cultural Summit, Embracing the Arts as an Engine of Economic Development. And the idea is to try and do similar to what Dan's doing with the Summer Music Series, is make these sustainable efforts. There's a lot of people that make, or try to make a living in the arts. And instead of seeing everybody asking musicians and actors to perform for free, trying to grow this as a part of our economic strategy, much the same as Berkshire County is doing, and I just saw in the paper that Manchester has an initiative they're working on similar, so a lot like that. I would like to get you guys some information on it and basically ask the board to consider this a sanctioned initiative similar to the VCRD work groups going forward. So. That's it.
That's it. Chris?
Nothing, thank
That's
you.
it?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. We do need a brief executive session for real estate address on Saturday, so I will entertain a motion for real estate and contracts.
So
Okay.
second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Okay. Executive session. Thank you.